Oh, hey. Ready to talk to your old man again? Good. Now, where did we leave off last night? Oh, right. So it was back in 1940, and I was just a young boy about 10. I would love to go to school, not because I like to learn, but because I love to bully the kids there. Oh, yes, I deeply enjoyed those days when I was younger. I wasn't any better when I left school either. There was this candy store on the corner that was run by this sweet old woman. Every day she would greet me, and I would put on a fake facade and greet her back. I would then steal a candy when she wasn't looking, and then another, and then another. I wouldn't stop till I had one of each of the 25 different candies in the store. I would then stuff them in my bag, pay for one, and leave. I didn't care at all. One day, however, that would all change when I went to school a week before we had summer break. And I was going to push a girl over while on my way to Miss Anderson's room. At the time she was putting away her books, then the moment came. I pushed her over, and the 3 books that were in her hands fell out. I began to laugh at her, but she began to cry. It didn't matter to me, I thought, but for some reason, this girl's cry flipped a switch in me, like I had finally realized what I had done was wrong. I immediately apologized, and she accepted it. I picked up her books, gave them to her, and then apologized again. She laughed and said it was okay. She told me her name, Angela. From that day on, I felt like a new man. I tried to make up for past mistakes by returning supplies from the kids I stole from, as well as helping them fight off other bullies. I also went back to the corner store and got a small job there to help repay all the candy I had stolen from her. Angela had changed my life that day, and I will never forget her. A few years later in 1950, me and Angela reunited at the University of Arizona, and we found love. We rented a dirty, broken house in Glendale, and we loved it and each other. It didn't look like much of a home at first. To many, that was like a lost cause. But me and Angela fixed it up real nice. Everything that was squeaky was now quiet. Everything moldy was now fresh, and it now had a fresh coat of paint. Then we got married and spent our honeymoon in California at Disneyland. Life was great, but it was about to get so much better. We'd been thinking about it for a while, but we then both agreed that we both wanted children. Then in 1960, you were born. It was such a glorious day, and when I held you, I knew I had it all. A wife, a beautiful kid, and a nice home. Coming back from the hospital, your mom invited her family over, and they thought you were the most precious thing. Oh yes, life was good. Some would say the dream, the peak of any man's life, and I loved it. However, it wouldn't stay like that for long. It was 1963, and I just came back from work. I just got home, and I went straight to bed. Before I went to bed in the bedroom, I saw your mom had been washing dishes in the kitchen. You were playing with your toy cars in your bedroom. Then a few minutes later, I heard a loud crash coming from the living room. I got up with my gun and saw a masked man grab hold of my wife. She was screaming, begging for her life, but he didn't listen. I saw it all. He stole her necklace and shot her in the head, and I was standing there in shock. I thought it was a nightmare, but it wasn't. And it was too late. You were crying, and in a fit of rage, I shot the man in the chest. I slowly walked over to him and took off his mask. He was just a young white man who needed money. Then when I focused again, I went to my room and called the cops. However, since the man was wearing very baggy clothes, the bullet I had thought had hit his chest only grazed him. The cops came, they got the information they needed, and they took the man away. I still thought he was dead, and I also learned that his name was Henry. I became an alcoholic at the loss of Angela. I spent less time with you, and soon you moved out. One day when I was at the grocery store, getting something to make dinner, I saw him. I saw Henry. I was making a plan in the store while grabbing my things to get ready to get revenge for the loss of my beloved wife. And when he left the store, I put my plan in motion. I followed him to his house, and he was about to enter his room, and I ran for my car with my gun, and I stood right behind him, and I was shouting, "You took everything from me." He had no idea who I was, and I was about to shoot him. I heard a voice, "Stop this madness at once." And it was like an angel had spoken to me. I put away my weapon. Then I told the man how he had killed my wife. And he cried. Not because I almost killed him, but because he killed my wife. He apologized profusely, and I forgave him. Luckily, he didn't call the cops. After that day, I felt a weight was removed from me, and I began to be happy again. Sadly, it was a little too late, and it was already getting old, and a few years later, I would end up here. So please, make up. Please make the most of your life. Don't ever let anything hold you back, and don't hold on to bad memories. They only hurt you. Remove your weight, and be happy for the world around you and your life. Be the person that I couldn't be.